Cruise news time, and we've got a pile of cruise news today. We're going to continue with the storm watch with an update on Hurricane Fiona, an update on Tropical Depression Ian. We have another cruise ship suffering from maintenance issues, now altering an itinerary, a couple medical evacuations on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship, and we have seven cruise ships still yet to debut in the U.S., brand new cruise ships yet to debut in the U.S. before the end of the year. And I've got a story as old as cruising. We have a guest turned away from dining because of a fashion choice, a fashion faux pas. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news and views for your Sunday consumption. That's right, it is Sunday, the 25th of September, 2022. How you doing? Look, we got a pile of cruise news. Before I get into it, let me just say this. At the end of the show yesterday, I recommended a video. Big cruise mistakes. Do not do this on a cruise. And sometimes I forget that there are videos out there that are a litmus test for my humor. I forget sometimes that not everybody gets my straight delivery satire, and that's certainly what that video was. And I got a couple airport speeches yesterday. I got a couple people announcing their departure because the video yesterday went completely over their head. So look, if you're watching that video I recommended yesterday, just remember, watch till the end. There's a good message in it, but it may be the test whether or not you're connected or not connected to some of my wacky ideas. Be careful. View with caution. All right, cruise news story number one. Let's do an update on Hurricane Fiona. She slammed into Canada yesterday, and early reports is it may not have been that bad. Well, later reports were it was pretty bad. About 7 p.m. last night, there were reports coming out that there were still about 500,000 people in the Maritimes without power, and we've seen reports from Prince Edward Island, from Nova Scotia, talking about flooding and power outages. We've yet to see any cruises alter there, so I'm not sure if there's going to be a big impact on cruising. We'll continue to follow that throughout the week to see what happens, and obviously more important than cruising are the people that have been impacted by those storms. The hope is that they'll be able to get back to some sort of normalcy with the expeditiousness, and that everything will be okay. But we've always seen in the wake of these storms a lot of damage, a lot of loss, and sometimes some challenge to get back to normalcy. So our hope and prayer right now is that the folks that are impacted up there will be okay. Also, as we mentioned yesterday, as Hurricane Fiona exits the scene, we do have now Tropical Depression Ian entering the scene, making its way west around the southern end of Cuba, eventually turning into the Gulf of Mexico. Been watching these models very closely. Some have changed, some have stayed the same. It depends the way the models work out. It depends where the storm goes. Obviously, there's some models that have this storm churning its way through the Gulf, hitting the panhandle of Florida. There's some models that have it coming right to my neighborhood, right to our front door. So it's going to be interesting over the next few days. Everywhere we went yesterday, you could see cars in Walmart parking lots and supermarket parking lots. There's pictures on Facebook of empty shelves. We've got to go get some water. I don't know where there's any water at, but other than that, I think we're pretty well good. So we're gonna ride the storm out. They haven't issued like an evacuation thing or anything here, so we'll continue to watch it over the next few days to see what's happening. But yeah, hurricane, or will be a hurricane, Tropical Depression Ian, making its way to Florida. Hopefully everybody in the path of that bad boy is okay. Cruise news story number two, let's talk about the Norwegian Breakaway. The Norwegian Breakaway is scheduled to do a repositioning cruise on November the 6th from New York City to New Orleans, Louisiana. And that's significant because we're waiting for that ship to get to New Orleans so that we can cruise on her in January. Well, the repositioning cruise has taken a turn. There's been an alteration to its itinerary based on a need for scheduled maintenance. The Breakaway was supposed to have 7 different ports of call, 7 different port stops on that repositioning cruise. Well, now 2 of those port stops have been removed, replaced with sea days. The stop in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, and the stop in Cozumel, Mexico have been nixed. and now they're replaced with sea days, going from 6 sea days to 8 sea days. In regards to the changes, Norwegian said, "It is always our intention to maintain original itineraries. However, at times, unforeseen circumstances require us to make modifications. As a result of required maintenance, Norwegian Breakaway will observe reduced speeds." That sounds like a pretty exciting cruise. Is anybody on that cruise? Are you bummed out that you've lost those 2 Western Caribbean ports? Leave a comment below. Cruise news story number 3, reports of 2 medical evacuations on Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas, sailing off the southern coast of Florida. 2 separate unrelated incidents. The first one, a 77-year-old woman suffering chest pains, was medevaced off of the ship, according to the Coast Guard. That happened around 7 p.m. last night, and then a couple hours later, a 68-year-old man was medevaced off of the ship after suffering a stroke. The ship was near Boca Raton. Both of those cases were taken to St. Mary's Medical Center. I believe that is in Boca Raton. Medical emergencies on cruise ships, not that unusual. Medevac, not even that unusual. Our hopes are that everybody recovers quickly from these incidents. Cruise news story number 4. For many of us, there's nothing more exciting than a brand new cruise ship debuting, and debuting in the U.S., debuting in Florida, where we can get to it closely. Most cruise ships are built in Europe. Most of the inaugural sailings happen in Europe and then do transatlantic over to the U.S. There are 7 cruise ships that have yet to sail in the U.S. that have sailed other places. So we're talking about a U.S. debut. It's like when the Beatles came over from the UK. The Beatles were already playing in the UK, but they had not yet played in the US. That's what we're talking about on these 7 cruise ships. Let me read the 7 cruise ships to you and tell you what dates they will be debuting in the US, and you tell me which one that you would like to go on. First, let's talk about the Carnival Celebration. It will hold 5,200 guests, and it is expected to arrive in the U.S. on November the 20th, and it will be home ported in Miami. There are 2 of the cruise ships that I'm scheduled to go on. I'll tell you what those are after I get through the list. Cruise ship number 2, the Norwegian Prima. It holds 3,215 guests. It is set to arrive in the U.S. on October the 5th, and it will be home porting in New York City, Miami, Galveston, and Port Canaveral. It's making the whirlwind tour. Cruise ship number 3, the Celebrity Beyond. It holds 3,260 guests. It will be making its U.S. debut October the 24th in New York City, and then it will be home porting out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Cruise ship number 4 is the MSC Seascape. It holds 4,560 guests. It's set to make its debut on December the 5th, 2022, and it will be home ported in Miami. Cruise ship number 5 is the Viking Neptune, holding 930 guests. It's set to arrive in the U.S. in December, on the 22nd of December, and it will be home ported from Fort Lauderdale. Cruise ship number 6 is the newest offering from Virgin Voyages, the Valiant Lady, scheduled to arrive in the U.S. on October the 30th, and it will be home ported from Miami. And then cruise ship number 7, set to make its U.S. debut still in 2022, is the Silver Dawn from Silver Sea Cruises. It holds 596 guests, set to debut in December of 2022 on December the 16th, and it will also home port from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, I'm currently booked on 2 of those 7 cruise ships, and there's probably a third one I really wish that I was booked on. I'm booked on the Carnival Celebration. I'm booked on the NCL Prima for this year. And, well, the third ship that I'd really like to try is the Valiant Lady. I really enjoyed my Virgin Voyage experience. So yeah, Valiant Lady. That'd be cool if we could get on that before the end of the year. I tell you what, as we got to the end of the list and we saw those cruise ships that had less than 1,000 passengers, it really makes me want to try that high-end cruising. I know you're going to pay like 2 or 3 times the normal rate, but from my understanding, you really get treated well. I'm not a lap of luxury kind of guy though. I don't know if that high-end treatment is where I'm at in my cruising life right now, but I would try it. I would try it just to see what it's like. But yeah, could you imagine being on a modern, brand new cruise ship that only houses less than 1,000 people? That would be pretty interesting. Which of those 7 cruise ships would you like to try? What's the top of your list? Leave a comment below. All right, those are your major cruise news items. There was a kind of a lighter side of the cruise news talking about a fashion faux pas. They got a passenger refuse service at a restaurant. I'm going to tell you all about that. But first, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you in advance. Well, I've seen it time and time again. passenger shows up at a specialty restaurant and gets turned away because they are wearing short pants. I've never seen this elevated beyond the conversation of social media, but there was a news article in my feed today about a passenger that was shocked that they were turned away from the specialty restaurant. And so I figured since there was somebody out there that was shocked by it, it was worth mentioning. If you're cruising and you're going to a restaurant where you have to pay money, kind of an in the evening specialty restaurant, most of those specialty restaurants have a dress code, and most of those dress code require long pants. I also wanted to mention that there is one cruise line that has an offensive clothes policy where you cannot wear any slogans or saying or anything on your shirt or pants or your body that would be deemed offensive. That is Carnival Cruise Line. They have an offensive clothing policy. Obviously, they're going to be the arbiters of what they find offensive. So if there's anything that's mildly offensive that you own and you're cruising on Carnival, I would not wear that. I did make a video asking the question whether or not formal night was a form of classism or elitism. I'll tell you more about that. But first, let me thank you for watching the show. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. And look, you can do me a solid by hitting the like button. And unfortunately, if you do not hit the like button, I will be forced to punish you. And your punishment is this. On your next cruise, you will be forced to do 1,000 write-ups before your cruise even begins. You have to provide it in the place of your vaccine card. You have to provide it at the check-in process. 1,000 write-ups in crayon that says, "I will not wear shorts to the specialty dining restaurant." So you can avoid your write-ups by hitting the like button. Did you ever have write-ups in school? I think the worst I ever had was 500 write-ups. It was a weird thing where I would try to use 2 pencils. Either way, hit the like button and look, let's have that discussion. It's an oldie but goodie where I take the side that formal night is classist or elitist. I'd love to see what you think about that video based on the reactions to yesterday's video. Check it out. It's Tony for Lido, Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.